Hopefully you saw the email I sent yesterday, Saturday, I can't remember what day it was. All right, or the message I posted with a bunch of links to videos. Just read it, watch them when you can. So today we're picking up with, on the revised syllabus, the material assigned for the 28th. I am going to, in a couple of minutes, when we go to page, where is it? 780, I'm going to do a poem that we didn't do the last time we met. So on 758 in the, what is this? In the 11th edition, William Wordsworth, My Heart Leaps Up. Wordsworth is one of the Romantics. You've got Wordsworth, Coleridge, Blake, Shelley, Keats, and Byron, okay? These are the major poets in what's called the Romantic movement or the Romantic period. The Romantics didn't write about romance, not love in the sexual sense. They kind of emphasize a return to nature, an emphasis on nature and wonder as providing meaning for human life, for the soul, as feeding the soul. And part of that is because they were writing in response to a couple of different things. One, the burgeoning industrial age and what's called the Age of Enlightenment or the Age of Reason that began around 1650 and went up into 1800, maybe a little bit later, where you had philosophers and scientists essentially suggesting and saying, reason is the end all and be all of human existence. That with human reason and human rationality, we can solve all the problems, we can discover all the secrets of the universe, blah, 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 okay? What came with the rise of the Age of Reason and the Age of Enlightenment is the demise or the fall of emphasis on faith, any faith, not just Christian faith, but faith in any kind of religion, any kind of God and such. And with that whole Age of Reason kind of thing, a desacralized view of nature. That is, prior to the Age of Reason, nature was seen as, sacramental in a sense. It was a means of receiving grace from God. I don't mean in a traditional religious sense, like in a Christian sense, taking the Eucharist or communion, that kind of thing, but as a pathway, because Old Testament talks about, experiencing God in nature. It's what's called the general book of Revelation, okay? So these guys are all kind of getting back to that idea that nature is a pathway to higher consciousness, for lack of a better phrase. Because none of them really kind of openly came out and expressed, this is the way to Jesus, so to speak. Though Blake considered himself a Christian, Wordsworth and Coleridge did. Wordsworth, kind of more pantheist. I don't know about any of these. So, William Wordsworth, page 758, My Heart Leaps Up. My heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. So was it when my life began, so is it now I am a man. So be it when I shall grow old, or let me die. The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. So, my heart leaps up when I behold a rainbow in the sky. Notice present tense. And what does that mean by my heart leaps up? I mean, it doesn't literally leap up. So what kind of experience is that?
Happy.
Yeah, happy. What else? It's one of those moments. That's literally what is meant by that. You see a sunset, you see a rainbow, you see something in the natural world that just takes your breath away. That's what the speaker is getting at, okay? So was it when my life began? Past tense, doesn't mean the day I was born. When my life began implies what? When I was a child, okay? So was it when my life began? That is, my heart leapt up when I saw a rainbow. So is it now I am a man? I still have that experience now. So be it when I shall grow old. Speaker's telling us, I'm not old yet. Or let me die. When is the or let me die? Notice, so be it when I shall grow old, so let it be when I get old, or let me die. Doesn't the or kind of imply, but if I'm not going to have my heart leap up when I see a rainbow when I am old, let me die now. In other words, I want to die when I can still have that appreciation, that sense of wonder. Okay? That's what he's saying. Let me always be filled with that sense of wonder at the natural world. The child is father of the man. What? Isn't that the other way around? Isn't the man the father of the child? Traditionally, biologically speaking, yes. So how can the child be the father of the man? Where's the man come from? The child, the young boy, assuming nothing happens, grows into the man, becomes the man. That's how the child is the father of the man. Okay? And I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety. Piety. Religious devotion is what that means. Okay? Faith. Belief. I could wish my days to be bound by what? Natural faith. Natural belief. Natural devotion. And he means by natural, nature, trees, rocks, flowers, rivers, mountains, oceans. I want my present experience of those things to do what? To link today with yesterday and with tomorrow. And that line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, line 6 tells us, and when it stops, let me die. Or let me die before I stop having that experience. Okay? Turn from there to 780. That's not the right page. That's the right page. Another poem by Wordsworth. The world is too much with us. And I think, even though they're separated by 80-some years, hold on just 1 second. Turn page. One more.
I think they're written the same year.
No, the poem I'm going to make a reference to. World is Too Much With Us is 70 years before Gerard Manley Hopkins published God's Grandeur. You can read, I think with some benefit, The World is Too Much With Us juxtaposed with Hopkinson's poem, okay? Because they kind of deal with at least some similar ideas. Both sonnets, by the way. The world is too much with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours, and are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Notice 4 single syllable words. Boom, 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 boom. Period, dash. Take a big pause. Great God! I'd rather be a pagan suckle than a creed outworn. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. Have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. Okay, let's go back to the first quatrain. The world is too much with us. What does that mean? How can the world be too much with us? Not us collectively, individually. How many of you are feeling a little bit of stress kind of starting to build about now? End of the semester, papers, exams, projects, assignments, they all kind of pile up at the end, right? Christmas, shopping, family, it all kind of piles up all around the same time. That's what he means. I mean, not literally those things, but all the cares, concerns, burdens that we have, all right? It's all with us. Late and soon, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. Late and soon. What kind of terms are those? What do those describe? Colors? Sounds? Images? Time. Late, that's ago. Soon, up until just now. Okay. Getting and spending. So how do we waste our powers? Late and soon, always. Getting and spending. Take in, throw out. Take in, throw out. So how is the world too much with us? It's not necessarily mental or emotional stress. Stuff. The speaker is saying we burden ourselves with stuff. Go back and look at that poem by Hopkins. Smearing, blearing, toiling. Man no longer what? Feels the ground. Why? Because his feet are shod, and they have trod, and killed the soil, etc. Okay? Little we see in nature that is ours. What does that mean? Little we see in nature that is ours. Nature, like if the blinds won't turn open. Like in the natural world. What does it mean? Little we see out there that is ours. Does it mean that we own? No. He means that we have a connection to. Look around this room. Is anything in here natural? The lighting isn't. The flooring isn't. The desks aren't. There's no wood. As an example. Everything's plastic, cement, steel, kind of. I had a student in my first class point out, well, we're natural. I don't think anybody in here is an android or something like that. I never know anymore. Okay. True. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away a sordid boon. What have we given our hearts away to? The speaker means. whatever is not of nature. Okay, now he's writing this, publishing this in 1807. We are now 215 years later. All right? What have we given our hearts away to? Getting and spending. Buying and selling. Accumulating and throwing away. Have you ever driven around, if you live in Murfreesboro, have you ever driven around Murfreesboro? Don't have time for even for this few seconds. And noticed how many self-storage sites there are and are going up? They're everywhere. Behind apartments, behind grocery stores, out in the boonies. Why? Just gather, 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 and never get rid of. Just more, more, more. So we've given our hearts away, and that's a sordid boon. Because what do you do when you give your heart away to somebody else? What? Usually, ideally, what are you getting in return? Their heart, yeah. I mean, that's what you hope. Okay? That's not a sordid boon. That's a fair trade, so to speak. Right? A sordid boon, a boon is something you receive. It's a good. Both lower G and good, like a material kind of thing. All right? That's what a boon is. But this is a sordid boon. It's dirtied. It's sullied. We've given our hearts away for what? Something not of nature. Okay? So, this sea, speaker kind of tells us where he is, or she possibly. This sea that bears her bosom to the moon, right? The sea, ocean, it's always exposed to the moon, whether there are clouds or not. The sea's never covered up, in other words, all right? The sea that bears her bosom to the moon, the winds that will be howling at all hours. You can't tell this storm to stop. It's not going to listen to you. And are upgathered now like sleeping flowers. Speaker's telling us what kind of day it is. It's calm. There's not a wind today. The winds are all gathered up somewhere like flowers, sleeping. For everything, we are out of tune. What kind of terminology is tune? What branch of human endeavors does tune relate to? It's in the humanities, it's not in the sciences. Music. So, saying we are out of tune means we are out of tune with what? For this and for everything. The speaker is saying we are out of tune. What's another phrase maybe for we are out of tune? Have you ever watched something on TV?
We're not in sync.
We're not in sync. And you see the mouth move, and it's like a split second later, you hear the sound. And sometimes it's really bad. The mouth will, and then it'll say something. Okay? But out of sync and out of tune are two different things. If you're out of tune, what are you? Let's say one of you has a really good voice, and then another one of you has a really bad voice. And the one of you with a really good voice starts singing, and we all just, kind of want to drop to our knees and worship this god or goddess of sound. But the other person, we want to pull out our, guns and kill, because what does the person with the bad voice do for the music produced by the person with the good voice? It's disharmonious. He's saying we are in disharmony with everything. Okay? It moves us not. What's the it? natural world. It doesn't move us. Move how? Not like earthquake. Inspire. What does that verb inspire literally mean? Anybody know? Like mouth to mouth resuscitation. When you're doing mouth to mouth to somebody, you are inspiring them. You are breathing into that person. All right? Nature doesn't breathe into us anymore. It doesn't give us meaning, the speaker is saying. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckle than a creed outworn. What's a creed outworn? Well, let me back up. What's a pagan? Notice it's capitalized, by the way. A pagan is not a heretic, for example, or a blasphemer of Christianity or any other religion. A pagan is someone who believes in a pagan religion. Not, the local pagan club, for example, at MTSU. He's referring old style pagan. How do we know? Because he's going to mention two Greek gods, Proteus and Triton. That kind of paganism, right? How is that pagan? What did the old Greek mythology, what did it suggest about the gods and goddesses? And centaurs, and satyrs, and fauns, and naiads, and dryads, and nymphs. The trees outside would have tree spirits. The trees would not only be alive, but at times the spirits of those trees would dance in the groves and such. Everything living had an animating spirit. Okay? So, great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed outworn. What's it mean to suckle? Literally, to suck at a breast. That breast would be the pagan creed. So what would the pagan creed do to him? Give him nourishment or her food. What would the nourishment and food be? The pagan belief system. He says, I'd rather be that in a creed outworn. Why outworn? No longer believed. No longer accepted. Okay? 1807, industrial age, enlightenment, age of reason. All of those rise, creeds. What does the word credo literally mean? I believe. It's not I know. It's not science. Okay? So might I. That is, if I were a pagan, suckled in a creed outworn, I would be able to, that's the so might I, standing on this pleasant lea. What's a lea? It's a promontory overlooking the ocean. So might I have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. If I'd been a pagan suckled in a creed outworn, then standing here looking at the ocean, he says, I might have glimpses of something that would make me less forlorn. What's forlorn? Hopeless. That's what forlorn means. I would see something that would make me less hopeless. And he gives us a couple examples. I might have sight of Proteus rising from the sea. Or I might hear Triton blow his wreathed horn. How might he see or hear that? I don't think he necessarily means literally see and hear. But metaphorically, figuratively. Did any ancient Greeks literally see Apollo? Most of us today would say, no. Why? What's the correct answer to why? Because Apollo isn't real. He's not real. Why do we say Apollo isn't real? Because that is a creed outworn. But if we believed in the possibility of Apollo, in Zeus, in Athena, in all the gods, in the river goddesses, and centaurs, then what? We might see something that our mind then fills in the blanks and says, oh, I just saw. Some people still have this belief, right? Various parts of the United States, people swear. I don't know that there's supposedly been one in Tennessee. Probably has. They're out in the woods, hunting, camping, backpacking, hiking, and people have sworn they've seen Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Have they? No idea. But they have a belief system that allows them to see something that they go, oh, that's what it was. Okay? But the world is too much with us. The speaker is suggesting that we no longer can see things like that. Which world has more wonder? A world with the possibility of unicorns and Bigfoots and abominable snowmen and dragons, or a world that is only what we see and know by science? The speaker is saying, give me the world with the possibility of Bigfoots and dragons and stuff, etc. Okay? Now, let me add one real quickly. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun, because we didn't do that the other day, and we didn't do that one. We did, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Let's do my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Real quickly. Okay? It's on the same page, or on the next page. 781 at the bottom. This is what's called an anti-Blazeon. Okay? The Blazeon is a catalog of beauty. And in typical fashion, in a love sonnet, what a poet does, what the speaker does in the Blazeon, is usually male speakers, usually female objects of male desire. Usually what the speaker does is he looks at the beloved and he describes her. Most often, starting from the head, talks about her hair, talks about her forehead. I don't know what it is about the forehead, but something about the forehead. Talks about her eyes, her nose, her cheeks, her lips, her teeth, and moves down the rest of the body. Okay? So, because of the Renaissance ideal of beauty, golden hair, blue eyes, rosy cheeks, red lips, snow white teeth, the whole 9 yards. Shakespeare takes that idea and he turns it on his head. Okay? And there's a reason for that, which we'll see in a minute. Sting, by the way, stole the title of the poem for one of his big hits back in the 80s, title of one of his albums. My Mistress's Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun. See, the title itself is an anti-Blazeon. In almost all the other poets of the period, this is 781 in the 11th edition, 976 in the 10th. What the poet will do is say, my mistress's eyes are like the sun. Now, name someone who has yellow eyes, who's not wearing contacts or, I don't know, possessed or something. Nobody has yellow eyes, color of the sun. So what the Renaissance poets were doing in that idea of yellow eyes is they were playing on an old medieval and Renaissance idea of how we see. Our eyes shoot out beams of light. That's what they thought, how we saw. Our eyes shoot out beams of light. The beams of light hit things like this table, this desk, and it gets reflected back to me. And the brain makes sense of that. Okay? Or you look at a person and the beam of light hits that person, all the features, and they gets bounced back, etc. Now, obviously, what can be a danger of looking too closely at somebody else? So your eyes shoot out beams. That person's eyes shoot out beams. Blind each other, or phrase I use, none of the poets use this, but it's implied. What happens when your beams of light hit the other person's beams of light? They mix and mingle. I-beam sex. They literally have those strong implications. I mean, they don't literally have the phrase I-beam sex because it's crude and it's not very poetic, right? So, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why, then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. So let's just talk about that first quatrain. Her eyes aren't like the sun because in the traditional poets they are like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. How red is coral? Where is coral red? When it's living and growing in the sea. What part of the sea? Where is England on a globe? Northern hemisphere, how far north? It's closer to the North Pole than it is to the equator. Ocean temperature around England, all the way around. It's pretty cold. Upper 40s, low 50s. Coral grow there? No. Where does coral grow? Caribbean, in the tropics. Okay? Water temperature has got to be a certain temperature. All right? So what would Shakespeare's experience of coral have been? Because he never went deep sea diving, never went snorkeling in the Bahamas. His experience of coral would have been coral taken out of the ocean. And what does it happen to coral when you remove it from the ocean? It dies. And so it starts to fade. So when he talks about coral's red is far more red than her lips red, the coral he would have seen would have been at most pink. So if it's much more red than her lips, what color are her lips? I don't know, but it's not pretty, okay? If snow is white, then her breasts are dun. What is dun colored? No. Dirty dishwater. Dirty laundry water. All right? So again, the model for beauty in Shakespeare's day, Queen Elizabeth, with the powdered sugar face and everything. Okay? So this isn't white. And I mean literally, this isn't white. This is a dark-skinned person. This is this is sonnet 130. From sonnet 126 on, in Shakespeare's sequence, many of those are about the dark lady that is referred to. So, if hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. He's talking about the texture of the hair. Okay? Kind of kinky. So that's the first quatrain. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. Damask means there's slight variation. So he's seen roses that are red and white together. But he doesn't see that in her cheeks. And it's my absolute favorite couplet from Shakespeare. I just love these two lines because they're so disgusting. In some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. What kind of verb is reek? What do you use it for? Really bad. Give me an example of something that reeks. Don't say, the person sitting next to me. It's happened before. Like the stuff that's at the bottom of a trash can. big trash can, you roll out for the trash people to come, and it gets dumped, but not everything. Ashton's going, ew, yeah, that's exactly the image. Foul, rotten, dirty stuff that you forget to take out of the refrigerator, like lettuce after, I don't know, about 3 weeks, it turns liquid and it stinks very bad. So, perfume smells nice, he says, but no such perfume that is in the breath that from my mistress reeks. So she goes up to him for a kiss, and he's like, wow. I just love that couplet. I love to hear speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. Any of you know who Fran Drescher is? Actress. Used to be on a TV show called The Nanny. Talks like this all the time. Dark hair, very pretty. But she had a voice like this. Who would want to hear this voice all the time? It's very nasally, right? I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And he uses those two lines because in the sonnet sequence tradition that Shakespeare is writing this sequence in, the beloved, the woman, is always compared to a goddess, like Venus or Aphrodite. The only problem with goddesses is what? They're not physical, literally, okay? And they don't live here. They live on Olympus or out there, okay? So he says, I never saw a goddess. I never saw a goddess walking down the street. My mistress, when she walks, she treads on the ground. Because those other goddesses, those other mistresses of the poems, other poems, it's like they hover. They're too good to touch the ground. Okay? There's possibly another meaning that the speaker is implying by talking about his mistress walking on the ground. Maybe she's also a prostitute. She's a streetwalker. Okay? And yet, by heaven, that's an oath. He's just sworn by heaven. I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. Now, my love can refer to his lover, his beloved, or it can refer to his love for her. And he says, my beloved, the she, as well as my love for her, are as rare as any other writer's beloved, belied with false compare. So, for example, another sonnet writer, a guy named Philip Sidney, wrote a sonnet sequence called Astrophil and Stella. Astrophil, astro, star, phil, lover, and Stella, another word for star. So, star lover and star, right? He describes his lover as a star, as a goddess and such. Shakespeare's speaker is saying that is belying with false compare. Why? Because no woman's that good. The speaker is suggesting. No beloved is an actual goddess. My goddess, my beloved, oh, she's going to keep me warm during the winter. What's the speaker implying about his beloved? He hasn't stated it literally, but he does it through all the description, through the anti-Blazeon. She's real. This speaker is talking about a real flesh and blood person. Wake up in the morning next to your lover. Do you want a first thing in the morning kiss necessarily? Sometimes not, because, you have morning breath, so to speak. Okay? All right, go from there. That was an added one for today, which means we're farther behind. To, we did the world was too much with us. 1048, she walks in beauty. She walks in beauty, George Gordon, Lord Byron. So on a quiz, like the one due Wednesday, if this poem is on there, I don't remember if it is or not. If this poem is on there and it says name the author, the quiz for Wednesday is just name the author. Titles of poems. You can put down George Gordon or you can put down Lord Byron. Don't put George Byron. Totally different thing. Or don't put down Lord George. Okay? Actually, I think I had one student put Boy George. No, not the same person. You can put down George Gordon or you can put down Lord Byron. Or you can put them both.
You said 1040?
1048. Did I say 940? Sorry.
I think you said 1040.
Oh, 1048 in the 10th edition. 1340 in the 11th edition. 1345 in the 10th edition. Okay? So, I'm going to ask a question at the end of this. Who's this about? She walks in beauty like the night, excuse me. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. Thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace, which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face. Where thoughts serenely sweet express, how pure, how dear, their dwelling place. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent. A mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. Okay? She walks in beauty. Beauty is capitalized, not totally sure why. And then we get a comparison. Like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. Cloudless climes and starry skies. Cloudless climates and starry skies. Now, partially you have to understand, a bit different world in 1814 than we live in 2022. Byron, as with Coleridge and Wordsworth, Byron often spent time in what's called the Lake District, northwest England, okay? But even if it had been other places of England other than the big manufacturing cities like London, Manchester, and Leeds, if he'd been anywhere else, in 1814, if he went out at night and looked up at the sky, he would not see the same number of stars we see if you go outside in Murfreesboro tonight, even if it's a clear sky. He would see bazillion, because the air was so much cleaner and there wasn't light pollution. You could go out in out in the middle of the Midwest, middle of Tennessee somewhere, clear night, and you'll see a whole lot of stars. You wouldn't see as many today as you would have seen 200 years ago. Because of not only light pollution, but other air pollution. So you got to wrap your mind around, he's talking about just the Milky Way spread out before you. So she walks in beauty like the night does of cloudless climes and starry skies. The skies and such are the clothing, as it were, of the night. And all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes. That is, the very best things of darkness and the very best things of brightness meet in her aspect, that's her face, and in her eyes. Thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. Why is the day gaudy? What is gaudy? Ostentatious, showy. It'd be like, not singling anybody out, it'd be like if one of the women in the class came in one morning, Wednesday morning, let's say, just dressed to the nines. I mean, you and some friends are going to go out, you're going to go clubbing, and you're just dressed to kill. we would probably go, wow, first of all, and then, why? Why are you dressed like that here? It would be over the top, right? Or if all the guys suddenly came in one morning looking like James Bonds, tuxes, hair, gaudy, right? So in her, the best of darkness and lightness do what? They are mellowed. It's like they're tempered together in her. And it's something in her that is denied to the beauty of the day. Okay? Next stanza. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face. Now, that can be read a number of different ways. So, just a teensy bit darker, or a teensy bit lighter, one ray the less, would do what? It would half impair her appearance. Whether her hair, raven tresses, what color is her hair? Black. Black, black. Black as night black. Okay? Or softly lightens o'er her face. She's light skinned, light complected. So light skin, pitch black hair. That's one way. Or it's the one shade darker and one ray of light lighter, just talking about her face, or just talking about her hair. Okay? So it can refer to the hair alone, the face alone, hair and face together. Where thoughts serenely sweet, what's the where? Her face. Where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. Notice, her face expresses what? Her thoughts. And that shows how pure, how dear their dwelling place. You look at this person being described, and you look at the face, and you say, this is the face of what? This is the face of an angel. This is a face that you can say, no sin, nothing dark, nothing hidden, no ulterior motives, okay? Because the dwelling place is pure and dear. What's the dwelling place? Well, if we're talking about the face, what's behind the face? The brain's up here. But it's not just her brain, it's her whole being that is being described. And notice what is that being? Pure. Okay? What does pure mean? Does it mean mostly pure? No, it's pure. Untainted by anything bad. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so notice what has happened in the progression of the stanzas. The first stanza, it's almost like we see this individual a bit from a distance. And then we get up closer, and we see more closely the hair and the face. Third stanza, we're now even closer. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, and yet eloquent. How can a cheek and brow be eloquent? Eloquent means what? I am not known for being eloquent in my classes. I'm just pretty blunt and, George Bush was not known for either of them, for being very eloquent. Obama was known for being eloquent. Joe Biden is not eloquent by any means. Okay? So what's eloquent? Well-spoken. Has the ability to speak clearly and powerfully. So how can her cheeks and brow be eloquent? They say a lot without her even opening her mouth. The smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent. The smiles. She's not, like the Mona Lisa, without a real smile. I mean, everybody talks about the Mona Lisa as a smile. It's not a smile. It's more like a smirk. Like, she knows something that the rest of us don't know. This individual has real smiles. And the cheeks have tints that glow. I was telling my first class, there have been a lot of times my wife and I have been talking with somebody that either I've not known or, haven't heard any news about or whatever. I've said afterward, is she pregnant? And my wife will say, or has said, she just found out, like yesterday. I have good pregnancy radar, so to speak. A lot of women, church we used to be at, I knew before everybody else. Why? Wasn't the father, wasn't saying that. Women often have what? When they get pregnant, there's a glow. I don't mean like a aura kind of thing, but there is a look on their skin, not just face, hands, arms. Some people are not attuned to this. I apparently am, and I can say, she's pregnant, isn't she? And we find out the next week, yes, she is. Only found out, 5 weeks kind of a thing. That's kind of, because this individual isn't being described as pregnant, all right? But that's kind of the tints that glow. The smiles that win and tints of glow do what? They tell of days in goodness spent. Tell of. They speak. That's the eloquence. A mind at peace, this is what they're also telling us. A mind at peace with all below what? The face, that is the rest of her body, the ground she walks on, or all of us. Because we're all below this individual. A heart whose love is innocent. About whom can we say that individual's heart is innocent? Anyone? What did the minister's black veil tell us? Each of us is wearing a veil. Why? That secret sin we want to hoard and hide from God. Okay? Not this person being described. So, back to my question, who is this describing? We're never told. So any answer is totally conditional and open to interpretation. It's a she, first of all. It's not he walks in beauty, it's she walks in beauty. I can't help but think it's Mary. Virgin Mary, Jesus' mother. Pure heart, innocent, all that kind of stuff. And partly that's because of the tradition of non-Protestant Christianity about Mary. Mary, according to the tradition of the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, Mary, at the age of 3, was taken by her parents to the temple in Jerusalem and given, essentially, to the temple and to the priest in the temple to raise. And Mary lived in the Holy of Holies, which is the part of the temple the high priest went into once a year, and only the high priest could go in. And she was fed by angels until she reached the age of 12. When she had to leave, because of puberty, and it was given in betrothal to Joseph. Betrothal wasn't marriage at that point. Betrothal was safekeeping. So he was betrothed to her to take care of her. Byron would have known all that because the educational system counted for all of that back in his day. That's the only thing I can think of, is that Mary. Okay. Dog's death we've done. 786. I don't know that we can do this in 2 minutes. No, we can't do this in 2 minutes. Okay, so Wednesday, we're going to get behind again. We're already behind. Wednesday, we'll do the other 3 poems that were signed for today, and we'll try to get all these others done also. Quiz due Wednesday night. Okay. Again, it's just titles of poems. You supply the authors. I think there's instructions, you know, if the author is known by 3 names, has to be all 3 names, and everybody. Gerard Manley Hopkins. You won't believe the number of people who have put Gerald Manley Hopkins. I don't know that there was a Gerald Manley Hopkins, but that's not the person who wrote the poems that Gerard Manley Hopkins wrote. And the final exam is already posted to Sunday night, I believe. If you want to go ahead and take it, feel free to. I would recommend just waiting until after class on Wednesday. If you're going to be here on Wednesday. If you're not, then, you know.